So when the Cuban Revolution for independence against Spain reemerged in 1895, Cuba's largest amount of trading was with the United States. The Cuban rebels fought for about 3 years and were essentially ready to push the Spanish out. The Spanish were tired. They were a weakened imperial power. They couldn't really afford to keep their troops there anymore. And they were about to leave at the point when the United States really now became worried that there would be a Cuban revolution. We had a lot of investment in Cuba. And so we sent a military boat to Cuba to stay in the harbor to let the Cuban rebels know that we were concerned about our property rights in Cuba. That boat was called the Maine. And in February of 1898, the Maine exploded. And the United States declared war on Spain then in April of 1898. We call that war the Spanish-American War. The Cubans find that quite offensive. They call it the Cuban War for Independence. When we helped vanquish the Spanish and chase them out at 3 months, we then signed a peace treaty with Spain. We didn't even allow Cuba to sign the peace treaty with Spain. We signed the peace treaty with Spain, and then we occupied Cuba for 5 years with troops, as if it were a colony. For the first half of the 20th century, Cuba and the United States had a relationship where Cuba was very much dependent on the United States. It was like a colony, but not a colony. It had formal independence, but they couldn't elect anyone the United States didn't want. We were the largest purchaser of their sugar. 85% of their sugar was sold to the United States. That was their main commodity. And they bought almost 90% of their goods from the United States. And so there was a relationship where they were really quite dependent on us. And so the Cuban Revolution of 1959 was a revolution not only for getting rid of Batista, the dictator, but it was for Cuban independence in a sense of not any longer being dependent on the United States. That was going to create problems if it was going to be carried out in a very serious way. The United States had kept Cuba under its thumb. And so in order to have independence, Cuba had to change the economic relationship. And that was going to upset people in power.